What I wanted to talk about now is this thing of comparison and this thing of being different to other people and seeing our differences. And there is a world of difference between comparing yourself to others and honouring the differences between us, honouring how unique we are. And really, if we take this to the dark side, if we take this to the side that we see in the unconscious sphere, people feel quite a lot of aggression and antagonism towards those that are different, those that think something else, believe something else, do different things, do unlike we do. And we see this across the full spectrum of human values, human consciousness, right versus left, believers versus non-believers, up versus down, intelligent versus unintelligent, the ugly and the beautiful, the rich and the poor. And this difference can be used to weaponize something. It can be used to weaponize a movement, used to stir up hatred, used to stir up passion, used to create this thing of us and them, us and the bad guys. We are the good guys, we are the bad guys, the in-group and the out-group. And we see this again and again, and we fall into this. I've also fallen into this. And in the unconscious way, in this dark way that we make this up and us and them, we point out how their difference is very different. We emphasize how different they are, and also how that is bad, how this person shouldn't be this way. They should not do these things. They should not believe these things. They are wrong. They are incorrect. They are misguided. They are shrouded in untruth, in lies, in fakeness. And it's hard to really explain this when you're in that shadow, when you're in that way of thinking, when you're in that paradigm, when you're conditioned to see other people in that way. It's hard to break through that. It's hard to sit down and actually cross the divide to see what are our differences. Because it's awkward, it's unfair, it's confronting, it's like, well, you're different to me and that makes me feel like there's something in me that shouldn't be the way that I am. I shouldn't be this way. I don't have to be this way. And really, that's the insight that we have to face. Why is it that we are the way we are? Do we have to be the way we are? Do you have to be the way you are? Do I have to be the way that I am? Because when I see someone different, I see, well, on some level, I don't have to be the way that I am. I could be something else. And this is why we get so triggered by inequality. This is why we get so triggered about people who believe different things, who don't think what I think, what we think, and what you think. And to really go into this further and to take this from the dark side to the light side, or from the unconscious to the conscious, it really takes a process of sitting down with someone in the same room, sitting on the same level, and talking and describing what your differences are. And the only way you can do that is by describing what you are and having it heard and having the other person describe what they are. And when that happens, both sides see, wow, your experience is very different to my experience. Your experience is unlike anything I've ever had. And as this process unfolds, as you go deeper into it, your differences become more pronounced, and concordantly, perhaps paradoxically, you become more connected. You feel like you can relate more to this person. You can care more about this person. And this transforms the differences between us from differences of comparison to differences of honouring. When you follow this process and you actually get that deep connection, you see how precious uniqueness is. You see how precious it is that you are the way you are and no one else is like that. and I am the way that I am. And so often it happens that we don't see the differences because we only see part of what one person's experience is. We only hear part of their story, we only get one semblance of an idea, we only get one expression of their story or feeling or experience or who they are, and it's only a small impression. We only see a tiny tip of the iceberg of who someone is. And it's a process because when we sit down and we explain our experiences or describe our experiences, we have to see a fairly large chunk of the story. We need to see the wholeness of it. Yeah, we need to see where you've come from, how you responded to a certain situation, how it changed you, how your feelings evolved, how your thoughts evolved. And the more you do that, the more of someone's story you see, the more of the pieces of the picture you put together, and the more of a clear picture you get, the more of an image you get, which is very different to this paradigm or conditioning of being in comparison, being in comparing just a small part, of seeing just a small part. When we see the bigger picture, we see how much someone has lived through, and you have lived through so much. You have already lived more than you could ever explain, more than you could ever describe. And it's funny, it's interesting that when we try to explain the whole life, I'll give you my whole life story, we see that first of all, that would take hours. That must take how long? And second of all, that you actually can get a sense of it even after just less than an hour, even after just a little bit. And in fact, that's the difference between honouring someone's uniqueness and not. When you talk to someone who doesn't have this conditioning of comparing or taking just a part of someone and equating that to all of who they are as a person. When you meet someone who doesn't have that, someone who actually can see there's always more to the story. There's always a truth to what they're saying. There's always a deeper experience behind the words that they're saying. When you meet someone like that and you talk to them, you get this sense that you're really close to them. You get this sense that, yes, this person really understands me. And you can actually tell your whole story, your whole life story, in just a few minutes. It's possible in the space of just 10 minutes to tell your whole life story. And for that to be heard and accepted by someone who feels, yes, I know this person. Yes, I can really sense what this person has been through. I can really sense how this has been. And of course also there's a sense of wanting to know more. That's another difference between comparison and honouring differences. Because when you compare yourself to others, you don't want to know more. You sort of shut down and you think, I know that person, I see how that person is, and then a wall goes up. And you try and get away from them. It's like, I've had enough of that person. But when there's an honouring of the uniqueness, and you hear about that person, you think, that's really interesting. There's obviously more to the story there. What about this? And you ask them questions. Now, a lot of the time when people express themselves, they feel they don't have the permission to say what they really feel. It takes time to open up. It takes time to really express yourself, because you don't want to express yourself to someone who's not going to hear it, someone who's not going to honour it. If you can sense that you're with someone who's going to judge and give advice and even put you down or cast sort of a negativity onto you, then you just don't do it. You don't express yourself. And there is a world of difference between someone who is warm-hearted and accepting of others and someone who is closed and judgmental or analytical towards others. You'll notice that it's common to look at someone with an analysis or a kind of type of person. This is the sort of dark side of psychology, which we might say. And this is a trap, because anytime you get to know someone deeply, anytime you really go into what other people are along this journey, and you travel it far enough, you see that there's no such thing as a type of person. There's no such thing as a person who fits into a category. There really is only unique individuals. So that's a little bit about my thought of the day for comparison and honouring differences. I'd love to know what your experience is. I'm looking for people to join me on my journey. I'm looking to expand my channel, to share my message with the world. So please do subscribe, interact with the channel, and I look forward to connecting with you soon.